This is Michael Popok, Legal AF and the MeidasTouch Network. Mark Meadows, former chief of staff, in his attempts to try to get the United States Supreme Court to bail him out of the criminal prosecution in Georgia, has failed. Mark Meadows is going to stand trial in Georgia in the Fulton County DA's case, as long as that case survives appeals that are ongoing right now, because the United States Supreme Court has said that they are satisfied with what the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals did to rule against Mark Meadows about 6 months ago, finding that Mark Meadows did not have the entitlement to take his state court prosecution over to federal court to have a federal judge make decisions about any defenses and then ultimately a ticket to the United States Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has dashed those hopes for both Mark Meadows and anybody as similarly situated, like former acting Attorney General Jeff Clark, who tried the exact same trick to get out from under the prosecution in state court, to try to take it to federal court, to try to take it to federal appellate court, to try to take it to federal U.S. Supreme Court, to avoid the prosecution outright. No, the Supreme Court has slammed the door in a one-word order today, denied the request by Mark Meadows to have his case heard. Now, let's back up how we got here. This just goes to show you that while Donald Trump, because he was president and is now president again, may enjoy some unique a set of defenses like immunity to avoid being brought to justice for his crimes, even that predated his presidency, that's not enjoyed by everybody else. And that's why attorney generals around the country, like Chris Mays in Arizona, have said, Tuesday doesn't change our prosecution of people like Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, Mike Roman, and others that tried to use fake electors to overturn the will of the people. That case continues. Similarly, the 18, or now I think it's down to 14 people left in the Georgia Fulton County District Attorney prosecution, they're not going anywhere. I can tell you straight, they're not going to federal court to have anything heard there. It's going to have to stay with Judge McAfee. Now, that case in Georgia, you may recall, is sort of on ice right now for another month or two, while the Georgia lower level appellate court makes some rulings about which counts should be dismissed or not, and which party should be dismissed or not, and whether the prosecutor, because she dated somebody on her team, needs to be removed from the case. That sort of issue is coming up from Judge McAfee, the state court judge. That's why it's been sitting around for about 8 months on ice. It's that ice is about to thaw, and Mark Meadows ain't getting out. Now, Mark Meadows and all the other former federal officers' arguments are that there's a unique federal removal statute that allows a federal officer, at the time that they are a federal officer who gets prosecuted in state court, to go run to a federal judge to try to get out from under it. But the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, that's usually right-wing leaning, sitting in Atlanta, decided that Mark Meadows could not use the federal removal statute for two major reasons. One, he was no longer a federal officer. He was no longer the chief of staff for Donald Trump. And in their interpretation, which was the first time in 200 years that a federal court had interpreted this way, but it makes perfect sense. They said, you can't take the case out of state court just because you don't like it. If you're a former federal officer, maybe you have an argument. If you're currently a federal officer, that you're getting prosecuted by a local prosecutor, and that would interfere with your ability to do your job under federalism. But you're former. You're very former. So no, you don't get to apply it. And by the way, even if that wasn't a problem, you don't fit the criteria to entitle you to removal, state to federal court, because this is what you did, what you're accused of. The phone calls to the Secretary of State in Georgia, trying to break into the counting room in Coffee County, Georgia, that goes beyond being Secretary of State. You're now felonious. You're now moved into conspiracy. And that is not something for which you have unique federal defenses. So no, you don't get to remove the case, and you're former, which is the main reason. Well, everybody was sort of apoplectic about it. Like, what do you mean? Where does it say formers can't say it? Formers can't use it. So it was a whole big fight that broke out. Creatine isn't just for the guys or athletes anymore. Whether you're a woman looking to tone, a guy looking to bulk, a sleep-deprived parent looking for an energy and cognitive boost, or a grandparent looking to maintain or build muscle, creatine gummies can help. Maybe you know you should be adding creatine to your wellness routine, but you've heard the myths about bloating and hair loss or are afraid of the loading phase. The reality is, those myths are not backed by the science. Proper creatine supplementation through Create results in no bloating, no cramping, and no hair loss. I've found a new way to cut out that second or third cup of coffee in the morning, and it's through creatine. Trust me, I never would have believed it until I tried it. But I'm getting so much energy and focus from my favorite Create creatine gummies that next cortado is no longer calling my name. Create delivers creatine through gummies, not powders like other brands. Create gummies are tasty, no mess, efficient, easy to take, travel well, and there's no loading phase. Create's creatine gummies are NSF certified for sport, so athletes can take it without any worries about testing flags. Use CreaPure. They're third-party tested, made in the USA, vegan, non-GMO, and have 100% natural ingredients with 1.5 grams of creatine monohydrate per gummy. Create's gummies are convenient. Take them anywhere. And they taste great, so it's easy to stay consistent. So you get the long-term benefits of using creatine. Create comes in 4 fantastic flavors: orange, blue raspberry, watermelon, and sour green apple, a customer favorite. If you're like me, you take your health and wellness seriously and are looking for a safe extra boost. And with Create, I have found a simple gummy way to body health, and I can see the results. Get 30% off any subscription or one-time purchase of Create 90 count bags at trycreate.co/legalaf. That's trycreate.co/legalaf for 30% off your order. But the 11th Circuit stood tall, and they said that's how we interpret it. And now there was some speculation that the United States Supreme Court may reverse the 11th Circuit decision or take the case to clarify former versus present. But that's over. In order for a case to be brought up on writ of certiorari, meaning the appeal is granted by the Supreme Court, you need at least 4 votes. You need 5 to decide in your favor, but you need 4 to decide to bring it up. Mark Meadows couldn't find 4 MAGA votes among 6 to take the case up on appeal, meaning the 11th Circuit ruling that only current but not former federal officers, brand new law, can use the federal officer removal statute is the law of the land. It is the final highest level court ruling, and unless some other court rules some other way, the Supreme Court's going to stay out of it. They don't see a reason to get involved. They couldn't find four justices to take that case up. That also kills Jeffrey Clark, who was the acting attorney general for about 20 minutes. He had the exact same thing happen to him. He took it to the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit said, you're exactly similarly situated as Mark Meadows. You're a former attorney general at best. You don't get to use this statute. And even if you could use it, you don't qualify under it for what you're accused of doing. So no, you're staying in the state prosecution with Fani Willis at the helm. And if people think they're getting rid of Fani Willis, they're not getting rid of Fani Willis. You know who else was elected or reelected on Tuesday? Fani Willis. The people of the county, Fulton County around Atlanta, like Fani Willis and the job that she did, and they returned her to office for another 4-year term. So unless she's removed because she went out on a date with somebody in her office having nothing to do with Donald Trump, which I highly would find suspect, this case is moving forward. It may not include Donald Trump. Let's be frank. It won't include Donald Trump. He's going to have to get dropped from the case based on the people's decision on Tuesday to return him to the presidency. But everybody else, you shouldn't have followed your cult leader over the abyss when he was wearing, you shouldn't have followed him into the fire when he was wearing flame retardant pajamas and you weren't. That's the best way that I can put that. So we're going to continue to follow what happens with Mark Meadows, but it's done. He's being prosecuted, just like he's being prosecuted by the Attorney General in Arizona. He's being prosecuted by the local prosecutor in Georgia. And I got news for these other people. Now that the case is over, effectively, in the federal courts and federal prosecutors by operation of the election, if it wasn't for the immunity that you better beg for immunity, which you're going to get, like Mark Meadows, Jeff Clark, because otherwise, down the road, a future prosecutor could try to bring a case, an indictment against you because the statute of limitations would not have run. But you know that Donald Trump's going to wave a magic wand. In his first month, he probably already has the list of 2,000 people he's going to pardon, all the Jan 6 people, all the Jan 6 defendants, and the like. But the news here, the reporting here is Mark Meadows, the Jeff Clarks of the world, the Mike Romans, the Rudy Giuliani's, you're not going anywhere. And if you've been prosecuted by state prosecutors in New York, in Arizona, California, in Georgia, you have no ability to take your case to federal court, nor apply federal defenses, nor try to hide behind Donald Trump's immunity coattails, because there aren't any. I'll continue to report on it. Now, more than ever, is the time to free subscribe. Hit the subscribe button for the Legal AF channel. We added 30,000 new subscribers. I thank each and every one of you since the election and here on the MeidasTouch network. Because the bigger our two pro-democracy channels get, the more we can hold Donald Trump accountable moving forward. The job is not over. We didn't build these channels just in the hopes that Kamala Harris or Joe Biden would win. We built them to be durable and to be here as a community, with this kind of shoulder-to-shoulder activity in case they lost, and now we're here. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, I'm Michael Popok, and I am reporting. In collaboration with the MeidasTouch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories at the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.